Hello and welcome back to this edition of Daily Actives brought to you by Bootleg Macro, the show where we look at the most active stocks on Yahoo Finance. We just made a video about NVIDIA. Go check it out. The next one's going to be about NIO. Here we go. And what I know about this, by the way, because I made some banger videos like last year about NIO, I know the NIO boys are watching, and NIO boys love this stock. Absolutely, you love this stock to death. Oh, I can already tell that this Google Finance data is trash right now. Let's see if we just have to delete this. There we go. It's coming in. It's much better, actually. So if we look now, what we can see on NIO, we are up 10.5% today. We are up 13.40% over 5 days. We are still down 14.5% over the past 15 and still down 13% over the past month. What a move. What a range in volatility. I imagine volatility is breaking out huge on this. Actually, maybe not when I think about it, because volatility, when you think about it from where it was here at the very beginning of the month to where it is here at the very end of the month, it really isn't going to feel like it went anywhere. It's going to feel like essentially we had an average price of about $6 and we're at 580. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and look at the raw data here. If we are looking, what I'd like to see is that essentially the price, it was at a crazy high, as we were talking about at this point back in September. Now it looks like October was essentially a mean reverting kind of month. But what I'd like to see is that we've hit those lows. We are starting to come back up, and we are just above the 5-day moving average. We are not yet above the 23-day moving average, but we are still below it in a nice way. What I like here too, you're not going to realize this until we look at a chart a little bit later. That day here on the 24th of October is actually the low in volatility. So this volatility falling is actually not true anymore. Volatility is actually starting to rise. I love that look. The reason why I love that look is because if correlation goes positive while volatility goes positive, you're going to get some massive moves. And NEO clearly is a great opportunity for massive moves. I mean, the move here from August all the way, I mean, that's 1 month. That move right there is unprecedented when you think about how much it was up. I mean, at one point, this thing was up 70% in 1 month, and that's exactly when it topped, was on the 2nd of October. I like where we are. I like the fact that we're still down 13% over 1 month, because this can definitely rally really hard. I mean, if you think about it, negative 13 up to 70% barely a month ago, that is an 83% like change in whatever, 30 days, 20 days, whatever you want to call it. Let's go ahead and look at the overall trading signal. So one of the things that's slightly bad here is that we do see, ooh, I need to go back. So the one thing that I noticed very, very quickly, which I think is really important to call out here, is that today was a volume spike. Now, today being a volume spike, we do not want to do that. Today being a volume spike is really important. The reason it's important is because anytime you get a volume spike, it means that volume was above the 10-day moving average leading up to this day. We had 109 million shares traded. Now, that doesn't even register as 3 standard deviations above the mean, because you look back here at the very end of September, we had over 100 million, 180 million, over 200 million shares traded here in NEO, and we are starting to see a resounding move. I love that we saw it up 10.5% on 109 million, even though that is not enough volume to register anything that is significant, except for a volume spike, which is above the 10-day moving average. Now, if we go over here and we're looking at these trading signals, we are still go short in the short term, intermediate term, and longer term, but we are still and continue to be bullish in the longer term trend. Now, that's very positive, because in the short term, we're seeing the bullishness return. The bearishness still exists. Want to pay attention to that. We look here at the overall like sentiment that's rolling. This is really what's going to feed into the near future. We can see that we've had a falling bear. And what I love about the fact we've had a falling bear is that, if we're being honest, this was a little overextended. At the end of September, beginning of October, this thing was at 66%. Now, this indicator really has trouble anytime it gets above 60%, and it has trouble anytime it gets below 40%. Now, when we're in that mid 50s, especially in something that's probably so bullish, just like NEO here, it's probably a great setup to start buying a few little dips to start preparing for what is going to be the eventual explosion of volatility higher with that correlation. But we'll get to that in just a moment. What I do like is that I see a series of these like signals here that are generally bearish. We see a bunch of bearish signals that were here, but you see that there's been none as of tomorrow. We've got an opportunity to really start to get some bullishness in this individual stock. Now, if I go ahead and look at the overall chart again, I can see that we've essentially just been living between $5 and $6. That's why the volatility is essentially fallen, because from where the price took off from to where it's come back to, nothing really happened. It was essentially go up, come back down. It was like doing nothing. You're just visiting $5 in two different ways. What I do like is I can see that the moving average of the indicator here in terms of sentiment is rolling over, but the sentiment itself is staying essentially above 50%. Look at that. You'd think that this was a big day, the 109 million, but it has nothing compared to the days that we saw at the very end of September. Look at the volatility. As I mentioned again, the volatility essentially bottomed on the 24th. It is starting to break out. The correlation is still positive, which I like to see. And I like to see that the correlation is actually starting to revert higher. That correlation, along with the volatility breaking out, tells me that we have a really good chance of actually seeing the 778 inside of the range here. We did get near the bottom, not obviously all the way to the bottom, but we did get below $5, which we haven't been below there since, again, only September. But if we're looking at the very top here, $7.80 is the highest high that I see, and I see it as a higher high than any of the previous ranges as well, which I also love. But tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you long? Are you short? Do you like it? Do you love it? Is it even a good review? Before you go, subscribe to the New High newsletter. We send you 25 stocks to your inbox. Stocks breaking out between $5 and $20. Stocks breaking out to 1-year highs. Stocks breaking out to all-time highs. It's a great list to get your trading week started. I'll talk to you soon.